done films with major stars except one, which I don't want to talk about.
I'll leave it open to all. Anybody can take it. Why are you guys not working with me?
क्या धोखा मारा, this is amazing. Hello everybody, I'm Rudrani and I'm so excited to be doing this. Of course, you are being welcomed to Zoom Speak Easy Best Director 2024 panel discussion, and it's an honor to be here. They are the magicians who create the on-screen magic, and they are definitely the most talented people of the lot. They are films that you've loved, you've enjoyed and analyzed. So of course we're going to do all of that. Thank you so much for being a part of the panel. And thank you for creating some amazing films.
Thank you.
Clap for yourself also. It's fine. What are the restrictions you feel today, sitting here in 2024, that are actually true hindrances in your craft? Sir?
I've just made one. You guys should take it.
Sir?
I think the day we stop calling what we make content, I think we will. Yeah, it's not a cardboard
Fair.
box in which we put things and we
Fair.
unpackage. It is, you're creating, you're telling stories. You are making movies. You're making series. It's not, putting all that into that one content box. So first, if we do that to start with,
Okay.
the rest, I think we're
okay?
good enough. Yeah, we're good enough. We're good enough to keep evolving, to keep working. This is very limiting. That everywhere we go, people say, "Okay, the content creator industry. It was never there. I don't know what this content is."
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Kabir, what's your point?
I agree with him totally, but also I think each time comes with its own sort of restrictions, and as creators we have to navigate the restrictions that come. So I don't think we can ever sit and say, okay, this is a situation where I am in where I can make anything I want, ultimately as creators we have to recognize what restrictions come with sort of different times, and you have to navigate that. We've seen that the world over, that sometimes navigating those restrictions can actually create the greatest art. Like in Iran, a man is not allowed to touch a woman, yet the best love stories come out of Iran. So, I think
So true.
as creators, we can't sit and complain about the times. We have to, at the end of the day, we are reflecting the times we are living in, and we have to do that through art.
Fair enough. Vikram?
I agree with Hansal in the fact that the content is and even though yes, from an audience perspective, a YouTube video and a streaming show is in a way the same thing, but yes, it's kind of hurts a little bit, especially when you come from the movies to be able to sort of say, yeah, that's not a YouTube video nahi bana. It's just that. I think, as always, and I think that the industry has a bit, ups and downs of that. But my constant sort of complaint or whatever for the last 30 odd years has been ambition. I just feel that there's always a sense of there can always be more ambition in the industry to go, whether it's from creators, whether it's from producers, whether it's from studios, whether it's from actors, anybody else. The ambition to actually go out there and do a little bit more than what we're already doing. I feel that in first phone calls only you're like, yaar, ye karna hai, lekin ye nahi karna hai. You know what I mean? But why are you already sort of putting those
Layers.
limits on something at every level? I just feel that if we take away some of that, we're able to say, let's try for hitting the sixer, na yaar. Why are we trying to not do it? Matlab fail hua to caught, when somebody will be caught, but at least there's a chance of us, doing something magical every time, as opposed to being putting a ceiling.
Yeah, I feel, as an actor also, I realize, I've just made this one film, but I feel with creators now more so, whose voice is it that you're watching? Who's going to take complete responsibility for that? And I believe it should be the makers, the director who's kind of the captain of the ship to kind of say. But there are so many factors that go into making a film, right from casting, and then again, like he said, there's so many hindrances of ye nahi chalega, wo chalega, and then you make a cut, then you show it to so many people. Then everybody has their feedback. Some is whether you can take it or not, but some feedback is you have to take it. And then you have the other ways of, where the focus groups happen and then some maths and science diagrams are shown to you, like, this peaked here and this went down there. So I often wonder that when you finally see the product, whose voice is it?
Yeah.
Because it's not. So I would rather, as a creator, feel that I should know if I have been successful or if I have failed in my voice.
Correct. Good or bad, it's yours.
Otherwise, I don't know if this is good, was it mine? If this is bad, I don't know if it was mine. So nobody actually takes onus or full responsibility of that.
Yeah.
So I think those are the problems that I'm sure everybody is dealing with, and we are also navigating through it.
Fair enough. Please excuse my voice. It's a bad time, but Kiran also was supposed to be a part of the panel and she sends her apologies. My question to you, Vikram, is the fact that I remember when you were doing, or when you were talking about, making Lutera, and you were in that phase, and you always said that Lutera was also a way for you to say that I am more than this indie bracket that you guys have put me in. But you also never seeked the validation from that part. Tell me why that phase was important for you. How did you navigate through that? Because it was interesting. Suddenly it was like, Vikramaditya ye bhi kar sakta hai. He's not, you achieved what you wanted to, for sure.
No, that was a deliberate sort of like move, because what tends to happen is that we will, and I'm sure it's happened to every filmmaker over here, is the fact, I'm sure Kunal right now is probably getting 5 scripts about comedies. I guarantee it, right? Because that's what, when you do, so I got so many ideas for family dramas after Udaan that I was like, nahi, I need to break out of this and do something. And of course the ambition at that point in time is that, yes, you believe in, whether it's naive or not, to be able to believe that there is a certain kind of purist cinema that can be made with commercial stars at that point in time. And, and in that year, Ranveer off Band Baja Bara, Sonakshi off Dabang, I was going for it. I'm like, might as well try and make this period kind of love story, but to mount it in a way that it would have been done, say, in the 50s or the 60s. And the fact that whatever movies were there, that Bimal Roy has made a Bandhani, with big stars, or, so why not? So it was that why not kind of thing, and also like, yeah, let's just try and break out of that mold. So I did it, and I think I've been doing it ever since then. It's been like just rolling.
Kunal, you have given Madgaon Express to me, a film that whenever I'm feeling a little low, I'm going to now go and watch it again. I feel like comedy, we were just sticking to another set pattern that we saw again. There were franchises that, continue even now, and they wanted to do that, and this came as a fresh breath of air, and also a very intelligent comedy. Kunal, when you all were sitting and you were planning all of it, I want to understand what were you thinking in your mind. What were your expectations, if you had any?
The approach to the film was never to say that, oh, there is a dearth of this, let's create it. The idea to tell stories has always been within. I've always said stories to friends, and over the years been saying that. So I always wanted to kind of tell a story that came naturally to me. I had never for once said that, oh, this will be so different or unique. One thing that I did consciously want to do is, because I've been an actor in different kinds of films, and within comedies also, I've done different kinds of comedies. Sure. And I realized when I did a film like Go Go Gone, it was very loved by a certain niche. Over the years, of course, it kind of built, and it's kind of, but that's the kind of humor that I like. But it wasn't massy enough, so to say. And then I did a film like Golmaal, which is loved by the masses. But again, there are certain classes that feel that this is not our kind of comedy. And I always tell that, how could it be great to see a bridge between the two, So for me, I wanted to build that bridge between a Go Go Gone and Golmaal. So that was the only thing that I consciously said, that this is the effort or the attempt of writing it. Of course, you can't constantly and consistently in every scene say, oh, ye wahan to nahi ja raha. Then you kind of instinctively start writing it.
Sure.
And I just wrote this film it got made now. I wrote it in 2014-15. And I never knew that I would get a chance to direct it. Because I thought, एक तो कहेंगे कि अब इसको लिखनी भी है. As I said, at best I'll just play a part in it. And I didn't have the courage, honestly, to tell somebody that, now put money behind me because I want to direct it.
Sure.
But luckily, every time somebody read it, they said, why don't you say the story? And so when that happened with Excel, I was very happy and yet nervous. And it's interesting when, Vikram said this, because the journey is so empowering. And I feel, as an actor, because you're waiting, right? You're in the vans, you're waiting to give your shot, so you're not engaging with everybody as much. So you're still guarded, and you can decide what you want to show to the world or not. But as a director, you're in the open. You're solving problems. you're having tempers, you're losing it, or you're laughing unabashedly, and you get through it. And I just found that really empowering.
I love it. Moving on to Kabir, I think it's really not easy showing true incidents and people who are there. You have a knack for it. You've done it. We saw what you did with Ranveer and Kapil. And with other, it was like a whole team that you had to create. I feel like you've got it right, and I think it's a very difficult thing to do.
So there's no one sort of standard that I apply to every biopic. Like Chandu and 83 are two very contrasting stories for the simple reason that one is one of the most known stories of our contemporary history, and one is a completely unknown story.
Sure.
So the approach was slightly different, but the commonality is, especially when I'm dealing with the actors, is that try and get the persona of the character we're portraying. So, like, I would always tell, especially in the case of 83, because it's a very well-known character, Kapil Dev, I had to tell Ranveer that it's not a look-alike contest. Of course, we will try as much as we can to make you look like that person. But at the end of the day, let's not get stuck in that. Because if you actually are able to get that expression, the persona of Kapil Dev, what he stood for in that tournament, I think it'll come flying through. And I think, of course, Ranveer did a fabulous job, because it's a tricky one. Football, especially Kapil Dev, is very tricky because there's a very peculiar way in which he speaks, which can easily become caricaturish. But the fact that Ranveer managed to get that, and speaking that way made you laugh, and more importantly made you cry, was, I think, the fact that shows how supreme an actor he is. In the case of Chandu Champion, this is a character which nobody knew, they'd never seen, never heard of. So all the more reason I told Karthik, now don't try and again get into a look-alike and try. I said, let's get what this person stood for. Let's get what his journey stood for. His struggle when he went through what he did, and then 40 years later when he fought for recognition which didn't come his way. And once that sort of was out of the way, and that sort of load went away from Karthik as an actor, he said, okay, let me try and create what I am understanding from you. For example, I told Karthik, don't meet Murlikant Petkar. And in 83, I told Ranveer, go spend as much time as you can with Kapil. So there were two different approaches. I told Karthik that you have to create the image I am giving you. I don't want you to go spend so much time with Murlikant Petkar. One, he's 80 years old. He's not the man he was at the age that you are trying to portray right now. And then we just sat and we sort of created this, image of a man that we wanted to portray, and then put him through extensive training, which is common for both the stories, because it's almost a year and a half of training, whether it's 83 or whether it's Chandu Champion, for Karthik to go through a body transformation like he had never gone through before, being a middleweight boxer, being a swimmer, and being a slightly pudgy wrestler in the village. I didn't want that, a wrestler in the village having six packs. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't look authentic. So it was a whole journey that we had to plan and, shoot accordingly. But I think what Karthik also managed to do is he got the persona right. I mean, he got what Murlikant stood for in his journey, why he fought so much, what he felt from the time when he was a child in the village, and how he was ridiculed for having a certain dream which was way beyond any normal person would dream, and to be able to then ultimately achieve that. So very different approaches to both the stories, yet a lot of sort of common elements that you put the actors through.
Hansal sir, Buckingham Murders for me was a film that I was in awe of. Of course, I think Karina's character, the fact that you wanted to show different stages of sadness, of outcasts, it was very interesting. But what was beautiful to watch also was that you changed the place and the feel of the whole scene according to how the characters are feeling. It went grayer, it went darker, you could see the skies, you could see the way you placed it, and I thought it was incredible. We've seen a lot of directors do that, use the place so well that you almost feel it's alive, it's a part of the thing. I think that struck to me. Tell me, how you managed to do that, and I'm sure there's a story behind it.
There's no story. I started in October, finished in December. So the skies got gloomier as we went, and I one of the things I follow, I try to shoot as much in sequence as possible. You know, so emotionally, I give my characters, the actors, the space to build their character. You know, that I don't start from the end or start something from the second half. I try to make it organic. That, you know, so if you've done something right now, the actor discovers something about the character as they go along. So it's that discovery. And Kareena does not communicate anything about what she's feeling. She comes and she says, I'm ready, let's go. She's like that. But I know she's internally going through something. You know, grief, grieving mother. There's a process that's going on, but she doesn't talk about that process. So my job was to, you know, make that, create an environment where she could go through that whole process, and the other actors also.
Sure.
So it was, I mean, this is a film I signed before the pandemic in 2018. And it became a commitment. And until 2021, nobody wanted to do it with me. And then Kareena, we had a Zoom call and she said, I like it, I want to do it. I had given up on the film. And then the film, so my only condition in the film is that, you know, I am not shooting a film in London where everybody speaks in Hindi and they're all Indian characters. They will speak in the language that they speak in on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to cast locally. So I used, the entire team was British. We had 3 actors and a couple of ADs from India. Entire team was British. So we sort of, the DOP wasn't fascinated by London. You know, she found it boring. She said, what do you like in this? We see this every day. You know, the skies, everything. For her, it was so, it allowed her to explore the character more than, you know, otherwise we get fascinated. Oh, this looks beautiful, let's put the camera here. That did not happen. You know, it became more of a personal exploration, it became more of a personal journey. And I wanted to do that. So the production designer, the production designer helped me in understanding how police stations work there. You know, the difference between a detective and a cop. They're 2 different people.
Yeah.
You know, so initially when it was written, our research was all wrong. That the detective was carrying a gun. And I saw a lot of, I'm a big fan of British detective shows. I said, none of these detectives are wearing a uniform, carrying guns. What is this? Then you realize that there are different departments. The detective goes to office. They wear a jacket. That's it. And I mean, I think now I can make a better British film.
I love that.
After watching this film, that's what.
But it's tricky, right? But I'm sure you've been in situations where you had to fight for your baby. Let's call it that. कि room में हो, अब release तो करना पड़ेगा because you've put in your life's effort, right?
Always. You always have to.
How have you tackled with those situations, Kabir?
You just have to stay true to what your vision was. I think, you know, you have to fight for it, and sometimes it does become, you know, there's a lot of pushback. But strangely, there's been these kind of situations that have arisen with some of my most successful films.
Yeah.
My most successful film was being doubted. कि ये क्या है? ये इस zone में क्यों जा रहे हो तुम? Why are you taking the star into a zone that he's never done? Especially when you're coming off a film that, it's like, you know, you've created the biggest action franchise. Now you want to go into a film which has no action.
Yeah.
And imagine that film goes and becomes the most successful film for me and for the actor involved. So I think this whole conventional wisdom that the corporate distribution stroke sort of, you know, the executives bring in can sometimes be really limiting. That's why I always feel like one should not listen to conventional wisdom beyond a point, because I think conventional wisdom also stops evolution. Because you're always then following the norms, because ye chalta hai to ye karte raho.
I feel like there's, you know, at the end of the day, they're all stories. We all, why do we want to tell show films? It's just a way of audio-visually presenting a story. So that's why a storyteller comes to tell the story. But I feel that the business, as and when it grew, there were so many other players that got into it. Some were brokers, some were, you know, the different businesses got into that, and then this whole thing of कि ये audience इस वक्त नहीं देखना चाहती है, and I'm like, how do you decide that? It's so like if you put 20 kids in a room and say बेटा आज कौन सी कहानी सुनोगे, everybody's going to say something different. You can't say कि कल horror सुनाई थी तो नहीं देख सकते, because they don't know. Sometimes audiences are like kids. We will come to the theatre, we'll watch something, and we'll be surprised that I didn't know I liked this genre, and that's why you have to give the freedom to the storyteller. Because if you're going to tell a storyteller कि आप बहुत अच्छी पिक्चर बनाते हो, वो storyteller कहता है अच्छा मेरे को इस तरह के लोग चाहिए, but इसमें तो स्टोरी नहीं बनेगी, but आप अभी इसमें थोड़ा कॉमेडी डाल दो और ये कर दो. So now that's when you're putting the storyteller not necessarily will be a business person also, no?
Yeah.
So why are you expecting कि वो ये भी कर लेगा? कि अब इसमें डांस भी करा देगा, ये भी करा देगा.
Star लो.
He's just pure it's like, and a lot of times it's like even like when you're selling a script, not everybody understands it when they read it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you narrate it. Not necessarily is a storyteller a good narrator. He's a good person who make the whole film.
Totally.
But based on the narration, you'll tell him कि यहाँ पे story lose हो रही है. But वो तो आप सुन रहे हो ना. अभी इसमें BGM आएगा, कुछ होगा वहाँ पे उधर तक पहुँचने तो दो. और some department will say अभी legal बोल रहा है ये निकाल दो. आप बोलते हो मैं script ही निकाल लेता हूँ यार. मैं क्या करूँगा फिर इसमें? फिर अब इस actor को लो. But वो actor लगता नहीं है ऐसा. But फिर हम पैसे नहीं डाल पाएंगे. And it's not a star's fault. I'm not saying it's any one person's fault. We've just built a business and become prisoners of that. But it will be makers who will kind of make films. They'll break the norms, and then there'll be a new standard. अभी वो ये ना एक स्त्री चल गई अब horror comedy और like he said, like I don't even if I want to tell a let's say a dark serial killer film, they look at me saying ये पागल हो गया है. इसको जो अभी चल रही है, you know, there's a thing, चलती गाड़ी का इंजन क्यों खोल रहे हो? Correct. But if then you have to say कि यार I feel like honestly if I wasn't an actor, if I was debuting this, मेरा घर नहीं चलता है. You don't get paid so much for the kind of work that you put in. So I just feel the makers are anyways hanging by a threshold when it comes to it, and then they have to say कि I want to fight for the art. It's very tough because you also want to live in the times that you live in. There is an expectation कि ये तो बड़ा film बनाया ना director ने, ये छोटी गाड़ी में क्यों है? So there are so many things that you're catering to. So there are so many pressures. But if you, as a producer, I feel, and that's why I say we need good producers. Because that's the dearth. That's where the problem lies. If a good producer takes away that stress from the director and lets him do what he wants to do, we will have better films and more successful films in varied genres. I feel.
Absolutely. You mentioned about working with stars, right? All of you have tried to do different things with the star that you all have also been. You know, there is ego management, what I've heard directors saying that in some cases, you will have to have a very honest discussion with the actor. In some cases, the star is absolutely okay being what you want the person to be. Anurag gave a very interesting interview to me a while back where he said, I cannot work with stars anymore because I don't want to take that pressure. I don't want to take that pressure. It's heartbreaking for me, you know, because I don't blame them. I don't want to do it anymore. I want your opinions on this conversation of the point that he made. Have you all felt that? Have you been in situations where you're so frustrated? Anurag went on a break for a while at that time when he was talking to me about this. And you of course know it.
Personally, no, I know. I haven't worked with as big a star as Kabir has. But I personally have, I mean, whether Ranveer Saif, Sonakshi, Ananya, Rajkumar, Anil Kapoor. I've had a great working relationship with all of them. I think that and I know Anurag's trauma was a little different when it came to
Yeah, of course.
But it wasn't about the star. I think it was the expectation of the expectation everybody put on him.
On him, exactly.
In that moment, studio, producer, public, press.
And I'm asking that.
I've had a great working. I think because at the end of the day, at least in my experience, when a movie star comes on a set, they are an actor, and that's all they are. And they are there on the day to work as hard as you are working to be able to deliver what they want to deliver, because that's what. I think the rest of the management is a question of sort of setting expectations right in the beginning, which I've never had a problem with in the first place. I mean, so I'm the wrong person to answer this.
No, sure, Kabir.
No, even I've had actually a good experience with them. I think a star, yes, sometimes come with trappings and the logistics of a film increases and all that, but then they also compensate by bringing a bigger budget to the table for those trappings.
Sure.
And if a star truly believes in your story, there can be no better collaborator. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes there is a struggle, sometimes there is, and I've spoken about this where during Ek Tha Tiger, Salman and I had lots of differences, because the first time, you know, I was working with him, I was just 2 films old, he had a different vision, I had a different vision, but that tussle was very beneficial for me in my career, because that tussle also led to a Bajrangi Bhaijaan. That tussle led to the two of us understanding each other, and therefore then doing a film where a star like Salman actually came out of the mold that he was used to and believed in this small little story and did it exactly the way I wanted him to do it. And when that happens, then is when magic like Bajrangi happens. Because see, I'm saying Bajrangi is a lovely story, and had I taken a lesser known star, a smaller sort of star in stature, the film would also have been, would have done well. Would it have become the monster it went on to become? No, because Salman takes you into that space which only a superstar can. So my experience also with the stars has been, I mean, I still even the way Ranveer approached 83, he was brilliant. He completely sort of surrendered and did exactly what was expected of him to play Kapil Dev. Went the extra mile, in fact, to be able to train and play cricket for 4 hours, 5 hours a day. Or even for a Karthik at a time when he was mostly doing sort of romantic comedies and all, I suddenly gave him a film where there was, none of the trappings of those kind of films, and said, okay, I will give you 1.5 years to go from 29% body fat to 8% body fat. I will do that for the role.
Sure.
So I must say, at a personal level, I've never had that problem. I've never ever repented like, oh, why did I do this film with a star? I think they've always helped get the film more attention, and they have more or less in my films fallen in line with what I wanted them to do.
I want to ask this. We're talking about how, let's say Taapsee and Sonakshi, they were talking about their experiences in the way they have been casted. Like they were told, you work with superstars, take a smaller roles kar lo, but then you will be recognized as a bigger star. And then when you do what you want to do and films that really matter, and it'll work for you. But then they said that when they were being casted after that, they were told, अब तुमने बड़े उनके साथ हीरो के साथ किया, they're older. Now you are also older category. You now, the people who are actually still 5 years older to you actors are saying, नहीं, मैं भी बुड्ढा दिखूंगा उसके साथ करूंगी तो. So it was a fascinating conversation only to see that the kind of struggle in casting that women are facing. So they were like, यार हमारी तो मतलब, this is our struggle. Now if you want to do, and if you have, let's say, like a Kareena, right? She's leading in Buckingham Murders. Very difficult to get an actor of, I'm just saying star value because you exactly know what I mean. Actor of a star value to come and do like an interesting role. They will say, ये तो Kareena की movie है, तो मैं तो second लगूंगा या. Just giving an example. Like Taapsee said, I've had people come and tell me that Taapsee की film है तो क्या हमको तो क्या ही role देंगे. While they said we are continuing to do this for the male actors, and I said that this kind of casting is making it very difficult for them. You all are directors, you all are part of the process, you all have seen it, and I'm sure you all understand where they come from. I would like your opinions on this discussion.
But sorry, वो दोनों तरफ से होता है पहले.
हाँ, sure.
वो दोनों तरफ से होता है कि if there is a big star, you will find a trouble finding a bigger star to come and do a smaller part. But if you have a smaller star male, then you will have trouble getting a big star female coming and doing a smaller part in that.
But so women have done it way more.
I'm saying it's a personal thing. I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong.
Correct.
But मैं बोल रहा हूँ वो दोनों तरफ होती है. तो मैं individually आपको अपनी problem बता सकता हूँ. लेकिन अगर नहीं, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि मैं बता सकता हूँ कि मैं भी अभी complain करूँगा कि मेरे director ने मेरे साथ काम नहीं किया. But वो जब मेरे को ये भी पता है कि director को भी जब पैसे मिलेंगे तब picture बनेगा. So I'm saying in that way, of course there is a divide. Television is hugely dominated by women. If you see all the shows, they're all women-centric shows, right? So now if you see the stardom there is going to be different. Within the films here, while we are having this problem of, yes, major people going and buying those tickets is a male audience, let's say in that number, so maybe that's why, but we've had films like Kahani and, powerful women parts who've been bona fide stars, even Kareena Kapoor. But at the same time, like you said, कि अगर एक बड़ी हीरोइन कोई फीमेल सेंट्रिक पिक्चर कर रही है तो शायद बड़ा स्टार आके उसमें छोटा रोल नहीं करेगा. है ऐसी पिक्चर है जिसमें बड़े स्टार ने किए हैं बहुत कम. वैसे मैं कह रहा हूँ, अगर बड़ी फीमेल स्टार कोई अगर छोटा स्टार एक्टर है और उसमें छोटा रोल है तो बड़ी फीमेल स्टार आके नहीं करेगी. तो वो कंप्लेन करने वाली बात दोनों तरफ से है.
Okay, fair.
Just actors are so conscious of their positioning and image that what Kunal is saying is so correct. They'll, even if the role goes just a little longer than what you can qualify as a cameo, they'll say, अच्छा, special appearance मिलेगा. अरे यार role है, कर लो, मजा आपको भी अच्छा लग रहा है. You want to do it, but so then they want to justify. We did it as a special appearance. हमने, the bigness of our heart, we did it. So that's the problem. They're not approaching it like a character. They're always aware of positioning और लोग क्या कहेंगे. Unfortunately, the stars are most conscious that लोग क्या कहेंगे more than I would say
कि मेरा मार्केट खत्म हो जाएगा कि मैंने छोटा रोल कर दिया तो we are not able to cast two leading men together.
I think at a time, I mean, I want to live at a time where I don't have to keep telling women-centric and women-led also, but visual thinking.
Yeah, it's a story.
Honestly,
It's a story.
And we keep talking about the South. You look at Fahad Fasil. He's part of matlab, all kinds of films. Kumalangi Night se leke, even in Pushpa, he's in an Allu Arjun vehicle. You know.
That's also another way. You know,
I think we have to be more secure. I mean,
Yeah.
We actually are spoiled. We have enough. We get enough. I feel that for me, I get more than what I ever asked for in life.
I'm having too much fun, and this last segment is a favorite segment of mine. We call it Directors Asking Directors. As simple as thing, I'm going to ask you to pick anyone. You want to ask a question too specific or a generic question that anybody can answer. What would you ask your guests on the panel here?
I'll leave it open to all. Anybody can take it. Why are you guys not working with me?
Kunal, kya mauka hamara. This is amazing. I
I don't
love
want to
it.
put you in the spotlight. Just putting it in.
We got into the lift. We arrived here, and I asked him. I said, "Tu karega?" And he said, "नहीं, मैं कर रहा हूँ. I'm busy. February से busy.
अच्छा. मैंने बोला छोड़ दूंगा.
Netflix सुन रहे हो?
Good one. Look at you.
इसके बाद क्या पूछेंगे?
That's again two.
If you want to make it specific, you can.
No, not specific. I just think that it's a generic, and I think it's a question also in the sense to us, and I think only also because Kabir and Hansal over here is that how do we make? We are all political people in the way we want, and I think the cinema that we know, the way it is, it has been slightly restricted. Are we going to stop making political cinema completely? Are we going to go the way of Iran? Is there a third way that we haven't kind of like? Or is there something we should just ignore right now, not actually say what we're going to do?
Excellent question. Thank you.
No, I think it's a very valid question.
Yeah.
It's a question that we keep thinking about. So definitely, because as Rick said, if you're political and there's always some politics in your film, and what people don't understand is that the politics of a film is very misunderstood also.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
just think of
The
politics,
word.
is it about, it's anything is politics.
Sure.
The way you frame
Your beliefs, your ideologies, they're all a
characters,
part
what
of-
people are saying is all your politics. And I think without your politics, what's the point of making the film? So it's very important, but it is definitely something that one has to keep thinking about now how to present it, because the problem is not about what you want to say, but is it going to unnecessarily create a problem that will become then an impediment to the release of your film, or others who are invested in the film will have a problem with, and that's something that you have to constantly, that tussle is going on. And I don't think I have an answer to it. I think one just has to find a way to say it, but what is very important is you have to find the way to say it. Because I don't think the solution is, okay, let's not say it. Because I think then you're killing yourself as a filmmaker, you're killing your why you became a filmmaker. We have to just find ways, I guess, how to say it, and sometimes, it doesn't have to be in a confrontational manner. Sometimes it's actually said the best through humor, through a way where people cannot stand up and say, हमें ये बुरा लगा, but can make them think, oh, ये बात इसने बोली है, it's worth thinking about.
Sure.
So yeah, but that's a constant, I think, definitely a constant struggle today.
All of us.
That statement itself is a very political statement.
Exactly.
Technically,
क्योंकि
like,
आप इतने privileged हो कि आपको दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता,
Exactly.
आप हो सकते हो.
तो फिर आप आर्टिस्ट कैसे हो?
वो भी बात है.
तो सर मेरा एक सवाल है उसमें कि मैं कह रहा हूँ कि सपोज हम जैसे गोलमाल एक टेम्पलेट यूज करता हूँ, उसमें तो कहीं पॉलिटिक्स आता ही नहीं.
Yeah, politics are also, interpersonal. कि the way I approach disability,
Right.
the way I approach the other opposite gender, the way I approach a gay character, उन सब चीज़ों में मेरे politics आते हैं.
अच्छा वैसे
इनफैक्ट मुझे लगता है कि
Personal
ह्यूमर में
ideologies.
सबसे ज्यादा पॉलिटिक्स होते हैं.
Identity, how you approach identity. It's very political.
The point is not, Rudrani, that whether if somebody wants to make a film only for entertainment,
it's fine.
absolutely. You
Fine.
make only, but what I'm saying is, उसमें आपके politics होंगे.
Exactly.
हाँ करेक्ट.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
क्या
लेकिन you can't say, अरे why are you making film only to? अरे अगर मुझे film बनानी है, just pure entertainment, I want to make it. It's great, and the audience might also love it or might hate it. But उसमें भी मेरी politics तो आएंगे ही आएंगे.
100%.
Very often. You don't wear it on your sleeve.
बहुत है.
हाँ बहुत है, बहुत है.
You also don't wear it on your sleeve.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
something-
best part.
Yeah.
It's in the layers.
It comes through your work, through your expression.
Your person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think for filmmakers, our films are a reflection of. Ultimately, what is it? It's a reflection of what we've experienced, read, seen, heard. वो सब का निचोड़ हमारे script
I
में
will
आ
always
जाता है.
connect with the audience that kind of.
It's very personal. It's ultimately very personal experience. Dr. Zhivago is not a. Is it a political film or is it a love story? You know, what is it? It's a love story, but with the Russian Revolution and with public and personal ka na, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's about people.
100%.
Class over.
हाँ बट देखो सर आप बहुत अच्छा बोल रहे हो. आप भी दोनों को सवाल पूछना है. अभी सर आपका सवाल.
Well, my question is that you know, like Vikram, I have always said this, that Vikram constantly, every film is different from the previous one.
Yeah.
He is trying something new. Is it? Is that limiting? That you know you don't want to do the same thing again. Is that a limiting thought? That every time you might want to make Lutera again, that kind of a film again, but because you have decided to make something different, is that a?
No, I've not decided anything. I think like it's in that moment, the excitement that kind of like drives you in that moment to go and do something. I think, and then when you're setting yourself up for a challenge to be able to go out there and do that. Eventually, I will be doing a season 2 of Jubilee and a season 2 of like there will be those things. You go back into that world and you sort of reset yourself into that world, but you set up new challenges for yourself. I just love the idea of. I think when you're a fan of many different genres of filmmaking now, automatically you start to want to. I love the superhero genre, therefore Bhavesh Joshi. I love the coming of age genre, therefore Udan. I love the screen life genre, therefore Control. Like I love that whole meta-ness of AK versus AK because I just felt that that's another unexplored kind of thing. And I love dramas, like the classic sort of like streaming drama of our generation that's sort of like come. Therefore, the interest level in doing a Sacred Games or a Jubilee or a Black Warrant comes from just a genuine fandom of this kind of stuff. But I'm not. But I think it's also like I grew up loving the films of the late 80s, early 90s. That's like Terminator 2. Back to the Future, Die Hard. I think when in the 90s, where a lot of us, when the DVDs kind of first came out, where we ended up seeing the Finchers of the world and the Tarantinos of the world, that revelation to us, that was for me the cinema that I wanted to be able to make, but you couldn't make it in India at that point in time. So you've been at some point in time, I think today maybe we can. I think there's a chance for us to be able to say, make pure genre, stuff that I think that can be done right now. So I think maybe it's just me also, part of this is also me kind of like trying to find my little like niche voice, whatever.
I have one more question for Kunal.
Oh, okay.
Which part would you have cast yourself in? In Madgaon Express? Which was your part?
I didn't do
But
for
I love
myself.
Dodo, na?
Dodo?
Dodo was for myself. तो लिखा ही था मैंने अपने लिए. तो फिर जब डायरेक्टर बन गया तो फिर कहा.
But no, you can't direct yourself.
Now the first one I didn't want to risk it. मैं producer भाग जाता मैं डर गया बोले अब इसको लिखना
Actually,
भी
that
है.
was going to be my, because I'm always fascinated by
Allah,
directors' first films. My question was also going to be for Kunal, whether you at some point felt ki, yeah, why don't I just, such a lovely script, why don't I act in it?
No, I didn't to act in it only because direction was never on the cards. So I wrote Dodo's part to be the actor and then I wrote other parts.
And you thought somebody else will direct it?
Yeah, of course. That's how I
gave
pitched
you
it.
the confidence to be a director? Where's that moment where you said, yeah, मैं करता हूँ?
Yeah, honestly, as convoluted as it may sound, I never, because again, we were talking about perceptions and where you are in life and what message you're sending outside. I didn't want to seem like because things are not going so well now, he's trying to venture into different things and send a message like that. So I just thought that if I have to eventually direct, if I have to say no to work as an actor, ताकि market में ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए कि ये give up कर गया ये क्योंकि पता नहीं if this will work or not. So in 2016 also I was offered to direct this film, but then I didn't. But then when eventually with Excel again, then we were looking at directors and they were saying, should you play Pinku's part or Dodo's part? And I was like, I think Dodo will be better. I really think a Gujarati actor, Pratik, should play that part. And while those narrations were happening, one day again, because Rucha was involved, she said, I've been telling him he should direct it, and Ritesh said that, listen, we've heard it and you see it so clearly, and we've worked with new directors and So that gave me confidence.
But you know, we always ask directors though, when you all do little acting parts, did it help you being a director, or are you trying to like? I remember they were asking Confina this also, one of the actors on the table, that you know, can you switch off your director mode, or you know, like can you switch off your actor mode when you're directing and stuff like that? And directors go, they say,
I've never acted. I've only acted in my film school because you obviously have to act in each other's films.
No, I was thinking.
I'm not acting, but
Correct. I'm saying we ask directors that if they do a part, na, ki, did it help being a director?
You acted, no? You then Yellow Boots में था ना तू?
Yellow Boots नहीं, मैं अपना इसमें था, No Smoking में.
No Smoking में, हाँ, he was in No Smoking.
But I want to ask you this: does it help the tools that you have as an actor when you are doing your first direction?
100%.
Huh?
100%.
And can you tell me how?
More importantly, how
Which
to
is
interact with actors. Because, you know, I saw that, like when I was growing up, there are actors, directors, and then there are directors who are very much, then they depend on good actors.
Correct.
Because they don't know, sometimes they just don't know how to communicate to, because they can't act, right?
Sure, sure.
So sometimes they're like, कि मुझे अभी इसमें anger चाहिए, लेकिन कितना चाहिए, they may not be able to tell you that. So I've seen a lot of times, because I've worked with other actors also who come back and said कि मेरे को नहीं पता ये क्या चाहता है यार मेरे से. And then I was like, oh, acha. So that bit I got clear with all my actors, because I said, you tell me. Like for example, Divyendu has a different method of acting. Pratik has. So I understood where each actor is and how much guidance they need and how much free hand to give them. And then there are certain actors who really want to show them exactly what you want, and then they follow that. So that I think did help me with actors.
So you want to give an answer to him?
What?
Arey, I'm fielding for you. Kunal,
नहीं
knows
मजा
for
में free. You know what? मतलब Netflix.
नहीं मैं theatrical के भी free हूँ.
मेरे साथ तो कोई बना है.
On that note, thank you so much. It's truly been such an honor to be moderating this, because you all have, as honest your work is, even you're honest people. Thank you for being here, and thank you for creating the magic, keeping it alive for all of us. I think we all will always look forward to the work that you're creating, the films that you're making, because we love the films and we want to see more of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you're like, okay, awkwardly. But I think we should all again clap. I want to clap for you all. So,
We'll clap for
if you want to join,
We'll clap for you.
thank you once again.
Thank you, Rudrani.